With 4 million sounds, what will you create? Take the free trial today.
Hello everybody, welcome to another Superbooth at home video. This time, where in the world are we today? Well, we're in Grenoble in France with Sébastien Rochard from Arturia. How are you doing, Seb? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm great.
Excellent.
How's the dream at home?
Absolutely. It's not much difference for a lot of people. How's the isolation beard going on? Are you going to go for the full like hermit beard, or are you just going to keep it under control?
I don't know. I've trimmed it a bit, but the hair is growing. Can't really find a solution for that. But yeah, for work, it's all right. We can all manage via Skype and everything. Yeah.
Excellent. So there's been obviously the Keystep Pro is out. In fact, I have one here, which is I've yet to have a chance to look at it, but we're going to look at that. It's funny because in my review videos, every time I kept mixing up the Keystep Pro and the Keystep. So I would say Keystep Pro when I was using the Keystep, and people going, "Oh, it's a conspiracy! It's a conspiracy! There's something coming!" And now there is. It's amazing. So what are you showing us today, Seb?
Well, I have a setup with Keystep Pro. I wanted to show a bit what happens in a full hardware setup. So right now I have Keystep Pro. So it's got 4 tracks, and one of them controls the drummer impact, which is right here. But I'm not using the internal sequencer of drummer impact. I'm just triggering drums independently. I have one track going to the micro freak, which is on my right. And then I have 2 tracks, 2 patches I made in modular. One kind of keys, and one kind of distorted bass.
And of course, you're using the Arturia modular racks there, of course, which just to keep everything
I'm using
in the family.
the rack brutes. Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what is it you what are you showing us today? I mean, this is really kind of just an exploration of how much you can do, and I may have some questions as well. So,
all right. So I don't know. I mean, Keystep Pro has been announced at NAMM, so there's already quite a lot of information. But for those of you who might not know what it is, it's an external sequencer and a controller at the same time. As a controller, it's got these 37 slim keys with velocity and aftertouch. You have LEDs above the keys that show you what is playing, what is in the sequence. You have pitch bend and touch straight, and you have a lot of connectivity at the back. I won't move the setup right now, but just to tell you, you have a power switch, full-size USB cable, sustain input, metronome output, which I'm using right now. I'm taking a line output from the metronome, sending it into the mixer so that you can hear the metronome as I speak, but there's also a small speaker on the device to listen to the metronome directly. 2 MIDI outputs, a MIDI input, some clock in and out, and a separate reset output, which is very handy with a modular setup, so you can just reset your sequencers. For instance, Keystep Pro also had a reset output, but using the ring of the clock output. You know, DIN sync has a tip, ring, and sync. Yeah, and you had the reset output, so it works if you're using maybe 2 Keystep Pros or a Keystep, because both of them use a TRS signal. But because we wanted to, fully integrate with the modular setup, we have a separate reset out where it just sends a signal when you stop. We have 8 drum gates. So we call them drum gates, but basically they're gate outputs that you can use, to clock LFOs, trigger envelopes, trigger samples. I'm not using any right now because I've just made 2 big patches, melodic patches on the modular. But I used to do performances with various drum patches in the modular using the drum gates over here. And then you have these 4 CV gate voices. So each one has pitch, and mod output, which can be velocity or aftertouch, and a gate output. And these 4 voices can be either connected to each of the 4 tracks of Keystep Pro sequencer, or you can choose to assign multiple of them to one track to do polyphonic CV. So people who have, qubit modules, or just who want to create complex patches using multiple oscillators. Well, you can assign 3 voices to one of the tracks and play 3 notes, and it will distribute the voices to the three separate outputs.
Oh, neat. What I was going to ask, so the drum sequencer, because I've looked at it very, very briefly. The drum sequencer, does that work on one of the 4 tracks?
Yes,
is it one
the
specific?
drum sequencer is a different mode for the track 1. So all 4 tracks can be melodic sequencers. As melodic sequencers, they have up to 16 voices of polyphony in each step, up to 64 steps. And you can create notes up to 64 steps in length. So very, very powerful melodic sequencers. And the first track can turn into a drum sequencer, which is what we're seeing right now, where I have these 24 LEDs over here that show me the different drum parts. I can select a drum part and program a pattern, move to the next one, write pattern, and it will jump between them. Right. So very, very efficient, kind of how Keystep Pro or Drum Brute integrate the drum sequencer. And the 3 other tracks can either be melodic sequencers again or arpeggiators. And it's really great to have multiple arpeggiators. You have this hold button over here, so you can write an art, hold it, move to another track, create an art, hold it, and kind of have everything jamming at the same time, which sounds really great.
Oh, neat. Oh, right, good. Well, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on mine. I haven't really checked. So obviously this one doesn't have the same number of assignable controllers like the Keystep Pro had. But is there a way to use the ones that you do have to send out CCs and, and work in another way as well?
Yes. So again, same as Keystep Pro, you have this control button over here, which turns these 5 knobs into CC outputs. You can program them. There's a small display on Keystep Pro that lets you assign which CC and MIDI channels it's being sent to, and then you can just use them to write automation. And you also have the ability to write sequences of these CCs. So if you set record or just turn to step edit and modify some parameters, it's gonna send different CC values for each step.
Ah, okay.
So a great efficient way to just create a performance, assign to some stuff, press record, turn some knobs, and it's gonna play back the sequence as is. When you're using the control mode, the tracks, there's a background track. So whichever track you had selected last when you entered control is the one that is gonna use the keys, because there's no use for the keys on the control mode.
Right.
So it's
okay.
you couldn't be on track 4, and maybe you don't want to use these knobs to edit the pitch and get information. Maybe you're using an ARP or you're playing. Set it to control mode, and now you can tweak your knobs and modify your sequence in real time.
Ah, that's neat. That's excellent. Okay. All right. So I guess you've got something prepared here with all of this wonderful gear around. I mean, what were you aiming to demonstrate? Just a sort of something brilliant, no doubt.
Yeah, I'll try. I haven't entered anything. If I press play, nothing is playing. But I figured I was gonna just program a pattern using the different devices that I have here, and maybe try to explain a bit what I'm doing as I do.
Yeah, great.
So, all right. So I'm gonna start by real-time recording some drums. So I'll hold Shift and set the metronome. So now we can hear the metronome. I have my sequence set to 64 steps. You can do polyrhythm with the drums, so you can have every track with a different length. In this case, I'm using 64 step for everything. So I'll arm record, start recording. It's gonna play a count in of 1 bar, and I'm gonna play something. By the way, I'm using Drum Brute for those who have Drum Brute Impact. For those who have Drum Brute Impact, the different sounds are mapped on 1 octave, and then you have their colored counterpart. So here I have my distorted kick and my regular kick, and you also have the 2 velocity level. So you can have 4 flavors of kick drums directly like this. All right. Basic beat. Gonna enter some hi-hats too. So I hit this note by mistake. Just hold Shift, clear steps, and now it's gone. Take out the metronome. So yeah, simple beat going. Gonna move to this one, so set it to sequence. It's my bass, and I'm gonna real-time record the bass line on 4 bars again. Same metronome, so you have the counting. 2, 3. Now on track 3, so it's the micro freak over here. I'm just gonna enter an ARP, a simple ARP. I'm gonna set it to random, and I'll set it to 2 octaves of ARPs. So it's gonna play like this. Hold it. Of course I can. Bit more hi-hat. And this track, so it's a patch. It uses plates in the plates and ripples, and the mimeophone as a stereo delay. So I'm just gonna write maybe I'll set it to 1/8, so I have again 64 steps, but I can do effectively 8 bars just by setting it to 4 steps. Toggle the metronome on real time. Maybe erase this one a bit. So I'm using the clock output to sync the mimeophone. It has a sync input, so yeah, another interesting way to use the clock output just to sync a delay.
Neat. And that neat.
Say again?
So you're using the there's the sort of it's like the ratchet. I can't remember what it's called now. What do you call it?
It's the looper.
And will that work? Does that work on all tracks simultaneously, or can you have it on one?
Currently, it works on all track. It loops everything. What you can do though is select where you want to loop in the sequencer.
Neat.
So a great way to just perform and jam with the sequence using the looper.
I'm really glad to see a metronome on there, because that's the one thing about all sequencers. It's like, well, that's fine, but if you don't have a metronome to begin with, then you're sort of lost. You know, it's one of the things that really kind of opens up the sequencer right from the. So that's great to see that. That's a fantastic addition.
It's true. And when we put it, we figured how are people going to use it, and we ended up with a line output and a speaker, which might seem overkill, but actually depending on the setup, you know, when you're using speakers, you can just set it to using speaker, you can just set it to the small internal speaker and hear the metronome without having to patch everything into a mixer like I'm doing right now. In this case, I wanted you to hear it, and because I'm using headphones, it's more convenient to hear the metronome directly.
The most flexibility you can manage. So I'm curious about the I mean, again, you've updated firmware and whatnot. Has this got a kind of life? Have you got a roadmap for other stuff that didn't make it into firmware revision 1?
Yes. Yes. There are a lot of things that we can improve. I'm very happy with how the V1 version of the firmware is. We managed at the end, through a lot of effort, and I want to thank the team for that. We've managed to get everything we wanted on V1 done. But there are many things. I can't really promise anything.
No, I understand.
But there are many things that we can improve. Compared to Keystep Pro, this device has a small display, which is a great way to give visual feedback. Keystep Pro has a lot of new features which unfortunately can't be shown because they are not seal screens. So you have to rely on the user's memory to remember what the different key combinations are. So it works great. You can get more features, but there's a limit to how much you can memorize in a device. So on this one, we have probably more room for evolution and while keeping the workflow fluid.
Oh, excellent. And I guess that they're shipping now because we've got one here. Are they actually in stores or are they on the way? Can people buy them yet?
They are in stores. Everything is a bit complicated in terms of shipping and deliveries these days and stores that are closed. But to my knowledge, there are some in Europe, there are some in the US. I'm not certain of that. And there are some in Asia.
Okay. And once again, do you know what the euro price is of that? Have you got a kind of...
Yes, the euro price is $3.99 and the dollar price is $4.49.
I noticed actually that because I held it up against the Keystep, and there's an extra 4 notes, so you've gone from C to C rather than from F to C.
Five notes, yeah.
5 notes, right? Okay.
37 instead of 32, yes. Which is nice. 3 full octaves is nice, and the LEDs above the key also are a great addition for sequence editing. It's very efficient, I just hold let me make sure you can see this. I'm holding a step and now I can see which notes are in it. I can add other notes. I can maybe select multiple notes. So the ones that are dim are in the step but they are not selected, and the ones that are fully lit are selected. And then if I move the pitch, trying to get my hand outside of the shot. So if I move the pitch, you can modify just the selected number of notes, change the gate length of these notes. If you select a step, by default, all the notes are selected, but then you can just, so if I move the pitch right now, it's going to transpose everything. But if I just select these 2, for instance, then I'm not changing the rest of the sequence.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah. And this whole workflow of editing a polyphonic sequence with a step sequencer was, it was quite a struggle to figure out a good way to do it, and the LEDs above the key really solve that problem by showing you everything that is directly inside your sequence.
Does it also have aftertouch like the Keystep?
It does, yes.
Oh, brilliant.
It does. That you can send on the CD output.
Oh, right.
So of course it's mono aftertouch. So if you're using multiple voices with aftertouch on the CD output, they are going to send the same signal. There's no independent for each note, of course. But yeah, you have aftertouch.
Sebastien, thank you very much. That's a great demo, and lovely to hear a bit more about the sort of inner workings and details about that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Look forward to seeing you in person, actually, the next available show we can make it to, or even remotely, whatever works out best for anybody in these times.
We'll see how shows evolve.